All right, y'all. This is one of the biggest headlines coming out of Texas amidst all the flooding, the tragic flooding that we're seeing in Texas. This is one of the biggest headlines. Texas governor, just 12 hours before the floods, he said, if God wasn't illegal, they deport his butt too. If God was illegal, they deport his butt too. 12 hours later, the floods. The only problem with this video that was posted yesterday that has over 2 million views, 175,000 likes, over 10,000 comments, almost 20,000 favorites. The only problem with this headline is that I cannot find a single credible source to confirm that he actually said this. I can't find it. And I've been looking. I can't find a single credible source that indicates that this is true. But yet 2 million, what I would believe to be believers, 2 million, what I would think are Christians, watch this video. Over 175,000, what I believe to be Christians, agreed with this video. And then the vast majority of the comments, over 10,000 comments, actually seem to be supporting the idea that they are somewhat in support of the floods and hundreds of people losing their life. They said over 100 people died, but they have more people who they can't even find at all, who are just unaccounted for. One could assume, sadly enough, that they've probably lost their life as well. You also have the Christian girls camp, where the entire building that the 7 and 8-year-olds were sleeping in was washed away in the flood. And they're all gone. But yet we have videos like this where you have all these Christians in the comments who are saying that this is an example of why you should not mock God. We are in a very dangerous spot as Christians, especially today. If this is the heart posture that you are so quick to assume when tragedy strikes, and if you are so quick to assume based on a social media post where somebody is reporting on something and not even showing you one single shred of credible evidence, but you take them at their word, somebody who you've never even met, you simply take them at their word, we've got big problems. We've got big problems. I'm going to play this video. I'm going to read some of the comments. I'm also going to go through a few videos that I found relating to the Texas floods. One testimony of a miracle. Another video explaining how it was literally hell on earth. And then another video explaining how we can essentially think about this. Because here's the question. And this is the question that I've been asking too. Why would you allow something like this to happen, God? Like, this is crazy. Like, this is wild. This is insane. You have the ability to step in and do something. How come you didn't step in and do something? So we're going to get to that question as well. But first things first, let's start with this video right here. All right.
So it's going viral that Governor Greg Abbott, who is the governor of Texas, he said that if God was an illegal, that they would deport him as well. There's no favoritism here. This is interesting because just about 12 hours after this, that's when the flood in Texas, Central Texas, happened. And so you might say, well, that's just a random coincidence. No, The reason why I don't believe it is because how can you deport God off of the earth that he created? That's for one. Two, it just seems like you're completely mocking him. How? That doesn't make sense to me. And then three, we have seen people who have mocked God in the past, and then the end result was never good for them. I'm not one of those people who say Texas got what it deserves, because it didn't. He should have gotten what he deserves. However, if this is God responding to what he said, the blood is on this man's hands. Because what do you mean you would deport God? Then people will say, well, like, God doesn't respond to anything anymore. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. And then when he does do something, it's like, oh my gosh, God, it's just like God can't win with simple-minded people. And so what really should have happened in this is that it should have just been directed at him. Seriously. Also, apparently, I don't know if he's to blame for this, but there were tremendous budget cuts due to anything, whether.
Okay. The very top comment, 52,000 likes. Once again, God shows he's very real and is not to be mocked. 52,000 likes. So 52,000 Christians agree with that statement, that this is a representation of God showing that he's real and will not be mocked. So the representation is to eliminate 25 plus 7 and 8-year-old girls, Christian girls at that. That's the representation that you believe God is displaying through what happened, is that he will not be mocked. Because you listen to a story of a guy reporting on a story that does not even exist. It doesn't even exist. I can't find it. I can't find it. And now, instead of having a heart posture of prayer for these individuals, not just the Christian families who lost their daughters, but everybody who is losing family members, regardless of your beliefs, you're no longer in a posture of prayer for these individuals, but you've taken on a posture of retribution because you believe that the governor blasphemed God. Therefore, whatever happens to them is whatever happens to them. But you couldn't even take the time to verify if this story was even real or not. And you expect me to believe that these are the same people who take the time to carefully go through the scriptures and be led by the Holy Spirit in their study? You expect me to believe that those are the same people who can't even do a simple search to try to find a credible news source that would substantiate this claim? 52,000 people like that comment. God will not be mocked. Another 30,000 people like that comment. There was another comment that I read. I'm pretty sure I can find it right here. Here it is. So this is from a woman named Cammie. She said, a lot of people in the comments are asking why God didn't just punish the governor instead of allowing a flood that took lives. But the truth is, the governor represents the people of Texas. He spoke on their behalf and they didn't reject it. They probably laughed, stayed silent, or agreed with him. God didn't punish them. He simply excused himself. When you mock the one protecting you, he quietly steps aside. And his stepping aside doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Sometimes he lets you see what he's been keeping you from. You guys, something is very wrong with y'all. I want to play this video. Of a woman who, well, actually, y'all got my head spinning for real. Y'all got my head spinning for real. Let's start here. So this was at an RV site, which is a very popular site, specifically during the 4th of July, specifically during summer. A lot of Texans travel to this specific area to be close to the water, to have a good time, to hang out with their family, and to celebrate 4th of July, right? This RV park owner literally describes what sounds like hell on earth and details exactly what took place at this RV park when the floods actually hit. All right, take a listen.
Hey.
Do you have an estimate of how many RVs were in this area?
Yes, I had 28 up here and I had 5 on the island. And everything is lost. Everything's gone.
Have they started to find where those RVs were ending up?
Yes, there is about half a mile now down the river. There is a wall of about 30 to 40 vehicles all smashed together. And nobody's been able to get to that. But there's a lot in there, and it was just a very horrific night. At one point, you can see lights because it was pitch black. At that time of the night, it was just so black, and you could see the lights of vehicles getting washed off from upriver, and you can hear honking. You can see anything, but you can hear honking and you can hear the screaming. The cabins next door keep smashing against our trees. You can see the scarring of the trees, and that's where they were hitting. That's how high they were getting flushed.
These were the cars hitting the trees that was pulling the bark off?
Yeah, and the cabins from the RV park next door keep hitting, keep getting smashed against the trees. And there was...
So she said that a little ways down, there's a wall and 40 plus vehicles, RVs, all smashed into that wall. And it's still there right now, or at least the time of recording this video, it's still there. And they haven't gone through it yet. Imagine what's in there. Imagine what's in there. That's heartbreaking. Imagine complete dark, as she said, completely dark, pitch black. The waters are as high as this tree is. You see the little laceration in the tree? That's vehicles scarring the tree because they floated that high up and they're scarring against the tree, banging against the tree, and then going to the next one, doing the same thing. And it's pitch black. So you're hearing all of this. You're hearing the people honking in their cars because they don't know what else to do. They're trapped in their car. And then on top of that, you're hearing the screams of people, many of whom probably didn't make it.
Screaming, and you couldn't see much, but the screaming was unbearable. And we are one of the luckiest one because we only have 5 people missing, unfortunately. But I was able to get everybody. My husband and I were banging on doors, getting everybody out. We had the rescue team here because one of my residents heard them screaming at that, in the middle of the night around 3:30 or something like that, and he called 911, and that's the only reason why they were here so soon, so fast. And at one point, the manager next door, she came on running here and said, "We need help too," because they didn't know, and they lost a lot of people. They had so many missing people at that point, like close to 40 people missing just there, and us 5. That's 45 people in a matter of 1 hour. So it's just incredible. The force of that water was so insane. Nobody could get into it. My resident, that was the one that called 911. He was trying to get to the family and all the way to his waist, and debris hitting him, and he was yelling, "Please throw me your baby," and they couldn't, and they got swept away, and we all saw it, and we all heard them, and
the person that was trying to rescue them.
So early on in the interview, they showed this image right here of what appears to be kind of like a small island across the water here. And there was a family that was set up in this on this site, on this small little island. And as she said, they were stranded. They were stuck there. They're trying to get out. They're trying to find a way. Somebody had managed to get over there to them and was yelling at them, "Please throw me your baby. Please throw me your baby." And they were unable to do that. And the whole family was swept away. And everybody saw it. Everybody heard it. Insanely heartbreaking stuff. Insanely heartbreaking stuff. I saw this other story I wanted to share. This is from San Antonio News Source. The previous one, well, from the same thing. News 4 WOAI San Antonio. This one's from San Antonio News Source. This is a story of essentially what they describe to be a true miracle. I want you to take a listen to what happened.
Henry, I am still in Center Point on the Guadalupe River across from Lions Park, and I have some amazing video that we're going to share with you as the evening progresses. But let me tell you what happened here early this morning. There's a tree way out there in the river that you can see, that a big branch, you can see it's got a wound in it. That is where a young woman was plucked from a tree who came all the way from the Hunt Ingram area. That's like 14 miles away. She went under bridges. She survived incredible odds. She said RVs were floating by her. When I was up here at the bridge a minute ago, somebody said, go get Carl's video because you won't believe it. This, y'all, is Carl. And everybody here has been telling me this incredible story. They talk all over each other. So I told them, y'all just tell the story because it's a story of heroism and a miracle, truly.
A miracle.
Tell me, Carl.
True miracle. There's no other way to explain it.
You heard her screaming.
I did. We had gone away from the house for a little while because we were afraid the water was coming in our house. And I waited till it was stabilized, and I knew, so I waited back over. I came up on the deck, and she saw me, so she started to scream out loud. And I thought she was in the water going down the river, and I finally looked and was able to spot her in the tree. And so I began to holler back to her, hey, I see you, we'll get you help. And I called 911, waited about 20 minutes, nobody showed up, and I got in my vehicle, drove down the road to where I knew there were going to be authorities, and I found a DPS agent, and he then videoed and called in and sent some folks over here, but it still took a while. So
they brought a boat.
They did. We had a little bullhorn. We were hollering back and forth at her to let her know, hey, just hang on, because she was desperate. I mean, desperate. And then
you learned she came all the way from Hunt Ingram?
After they were able to pluck her out, we brought her into our house and gave her a shower, clothed her because it had stripped all of her clothing off, and gave her something to drink, gave her a nap, and then we had a long talk with her. We called her grandmother in Corpus because she's also missing her parents were with her at the time.
Sister and aunt and uncle as well.
Yeah, sister and uncle. So they were at a campground, and the water came up at, did you say 4 o'clock?
She told us that roughly 4 a.m. they started noticing the water coming up. Her mom and dad got in their car to try and go up the hill to get out of the water. The car was overtaken by the water and stalled out. They had to open the sunroof, climb through the sunroof, and then she said they were able to get on a tree. Her mom and her were clinging to each other. The dad was behind, holding on to them. Water would have been pushing at their back. She said it just kept overtaking them, and eventually they got swept away. She said the dad, they lost him immediately. Her and her mother were able to hang on to each other for a while. Then they got taken under in some sort of a rapid of some kind. They got separated. She said they were screaming back and forth, coming down the river for a period of time. Then she lost her mom. She said that she had clung to a handful of trees. They were small, would ended up getting pushed over and overtaken, and somehow she ended up here.
And so you
found the strength to climb in the tree,
And you said that she went into the water at 4, but you didn't see her until
8 o'clock, a little after 8 o'clock in the morning.
So her adventure was already 4 hours old when you saw her, and then it took a while for the boat to get there.
Exactly, and they're from Midland, so they have no idea about these things. It's it's a new experience for them. Said she came under a couple of bridges. One of them would have had to been on Sidney Baker, and she could see cars passing by. She was waving at them, and she couldn't get anybody's attention, and just continued down the river till she got to this spot. It's it's an absolute miracle. There's no way you survived that trip. I don't know how she did it. I really don't.
What was in your heart when she made it to dry land or wetland?
Oh my God, we all cheered. I mean, there were several people here, and we all just began to cheer and hoop and holler and carry on. We went down and greeted her and hugged her and got her blankets and towels and stuff. And just she could barely walk at that point. I mean, she was so exhausted and beat up. I mean, she was beat up pretty good. So,
but nothing broken as far as you know.
She had a fairly decent cut on the back of her head that she didn't even know about when the paramedics were checking her out until she took a shower. And she said she put shampoo in her hair, and then it started to burn. And then that was when she was just in so much shock that she didn't have a clue what was going on.
Y'all, there's a helicopter overhead. I don't know if you can hear it.
Crazy. So there's different, depending on what you watch, right? I watch a little bit of everything. I watch CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, everything in between. From a perspective standpoint, I watch a little bit of everything. And what's kind of being floated on the left is that this is because Trump made some cuts and essentially removed some positions that would have been pivotal in detecting and alerting this flood And essentially, they're trying to say that it could have been prevented had he not have made those cuts in that area that he thought was insignificant. But then on the flip side, you listen to, individuals and officials from Texas, and they're very aware of the potential of floods in that area. It's not something that's new. But I don't even think, even if they would have been prepared, even more prepared for that situation, I don't think it would have been enough anyway, because this is like a generational type of event that took place. It's on a whole nother level. So even if they had even more readiness, I don't think that necessarily would have really made them ready for this situation, because how can you be? Now, I saw the response and how quickly they got into action. They got things on the ground in terms of rescue teams and a plan. They had things figured out pretty quickly. And also, you have to imagine this taking place on the 4th of July, to be able to mobilize crews, rescue crews, and teams that quickly on a major holiday, that's also not easy, but they were able to pull that off. So I think about it from this perspective, and we're going to get into a story as well from the Christian camp. So the girls' Christian camp, Camp Mystic, the director of the camp, he actually lost his life trying to save some of the campers there. Literally lost his life, right? So we're going to talk about that story in a second. But when I think about stuff like this, it's like, yo, you never know when your last moment is going to be. Because even in a lot of the interviews that I was watching, people were saying like, hey, I got the alert on my phone that said flash flood warning on my phone, but I didn't really think anything of it, because it's not going to be, anything crazy. It's not going to be anything that we can't withstand. And then suddenly, in a matter of 20 minutes, the water level rises to a point of where we saw the flooding point, and now your whole reality is flipped upside down. That could be any one of us in that situation, to where we think everything's good one day and then our whole reality is flipped upside down. This is why it's so important to have a relationship with the one who defeated death, because we're all going to have to face that at some point in time. We're all going to have to face death at some point in time. But when you have a relationship with the one who defeated death, and you have your faith in him for the forgiveness of your sins, it's okay. What does the Bible say? He's going to wipe away every tear. And it might not make sense to us. It definitely don't make sense to me. I don't have all the answers. But there is going to be a day where we are going to know all the answers to our why questions as it pertains to God. Let's go here.
The bigger, broader question, which you deal with these questions all the time, and this is very personal and close to you, but people are asking, I heard it over the weekend, why would God allow this? And it's not just atheists or agnostics or people outside of the...
So this specifically is Dr. Jim Dennison, and he had a relationship with the camp director who lost his life. Just for some context.
The church. It's people in the church asking that question. Why would a good God allow this to happen? How do we respond to that?
Yeah, that's the issue of issues, isn't it? It's Jesus on the cross crying, my God, why have you forsaken me? If he could ask that question, we can ask that question. In Isaiah 1, remember the Lord says to us, come, let us reason together. Well, the Hebrew actually says, come, let us argue it out. We're allowed to ask this question. And if you really believe that God is all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful, you have to ask the question. Because he's all-knowing, he knew this was going to happen. Because he's all-powerful, he could have stopped it. Jesus calmed the stormy Sea of Galilee. He could have stopped it. Because he's all-loving, we assume he would. If I was all-knowing and all-powerful, I promise you I would have stopped this flood based on what I know of myself. So why didn't God? We're hearing about rescuers. There's one diver from the Coast Guard who has rescued as many as 200 people, we're discovering now. Did everything he could. Why didn't God do everything he could is the question we ask. And we ask it not just for their sake, but for our sake. Lord, if you were less than I thought you were supposed to be there, will you be that in my life when I'm up against the crisis? It's what C.S. Lewis said when he lost his wife to cancer. And he said his fear wasn't that he would stop believing in God. His fear was that he would come to say, okay, so this is what God's really like. Deceive yourself no longer. We all ask the question, and we should. The wrong approach is to take the off-ramp that says, okay, he's not all loving, he's not all powerful, he's not all knowing. When we embrace all three of those, and I think the way forward is to say a couple of things. First of all, I can't understand God. My mind is finite and fallen. First grader can't understand calculus. I shouldn't expect, it's Isaiah 55, his ways are higher than mine, his thoughts are higher than mine. I can't expect to understand the nature of God himself, and I have to keep that in mind. A second thing for me to understand is, because God has the bigger picture in mind, I really believe that he redeems all that he allows. I absolutely believe that. Because he's all knowing, he knows it. Because he's all powerful, he can. Because he's all loving, he wants to. I'm convinced he redeems everything that happens for a greater good. I'm not saying we'll understand that this side of eternity. We look through a glass darkly, and one day face to face, and one day we'll understand what we don't. I don't understand the Holocaust. I don't understand 9/11. I don't understand this. But I believe that God is still who he was. I believe he is still a loving father. And I believe that turning from him in a time of crisis is like turning away from the doctrine when we need them the most. It's like running away from the one that we most desperately need the help of. So we bring our questions to him. We ask our hard questions of him, and we ask him to redeem this in our lives and through our lives. And then last, we look for a way to help ourselves. We look for a way to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We move from speculation to practice. And when we do, we experience his peace, and we can share his peace. And one day we'll understand what we can't understand today.
One day we'll understand what we can't understand today. One day we'll understand. Yo, there's a lot of people, a lot of Christians, y'all trying to find a black and white answer to these situations. Like, you're trying to find a black and white answer. And then you see an article, you see a headline that you believe is the answer as to why this happened, and you completely run with it. It's almost as if you're advocating for the destruction of people who do not know God. You're advocating, you're promoting, and you're cheering for it. What did Jesus say? Sermon on the Mount. What did he say? He said, you are the salt of the earth, to preserve it. You are the salt of the earth, to preserve it. Our heart should be not on the retribution that those individuals could potentially receive as a result of not knowing God. Not potentially, but are going to receive, because we know they're going to face a fiery judgment for not knowing God. We shouldn't be cheering for that, though. We should be trying to reach those people to get them to turn to him so that their life can literally be saved. But it seems like a lot of us are like, yo, we're looking for reasons to do just the opposite. And I don't understand where we are right now as Christians, as the church. I don't understand where we are right now. There's a lot of confusion, and a lot of y'all are falling for the lies, and you're being swept into the world and the noise of the world, and it's influencing you, and you're starting to think like the world. Like, Jesus died for everybody. This is not some exclusive club. Jesus died for everybody. And he called you to be the salt of this earth, to preserve it, to point people to him. I don't know, man. Crazy story. My heart goes out to all the people, all the families in Texas. And I don't even necessarily know what to pray, but I know the Holy Spirit knows what my heart is asking for in this moment. And I just pray that God's will be done and that healing can come to those families. And yeah, man, wild, crazy situation. Let me know what you think. Get in my comments, like this video. I'm out, y'all.